All right, so today we're going to be looking at a pretty big tech conflict that's been brewing.
Yeah.
And it involves WordPress,
Mm.
which, as most people probably know, powers something like 40% of the web, which is a ridiculous amount.
Huge.
I mean, it's hard to even fathom how many websites that really is.
Right.
And one of the biggest WordPress hosting companies, WP Engine,
Yeah.
got into some hot water
They did.
with WordPress.org.
It's a really fascinating story, too, because it brings up some interesting questions about open source in general.
It really does.
Not just WordPress, but like the philosophy behind it.
Yeah, and how do you make a business out of it?
Right.
What are the ethics of that and all that?
Absolutely. And when does it cross a line, or, where's
Yeah.
that line?
Yeah.
It's very blurry.
And to really dig into this, we're going to be looking at an episode of the Tech Talk Bites podcast,
Okay.
where they break down this whole conflict and how it even came about.
Gotcha.
So to start with, for those who maybe aren't super familiar with the technical side of WordPress,
Yeah.
you can either like host WordPress yourself, like you handle all the
Right,
back end stuff.
Servers and the security and all that.
Exactly. Or you can go with a hosting provider, which a lot of people do because it's just easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of the headache out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people they want to focus on the content. They
Okay.
don't want to worry about the tech stuff.
And that's where WP Engine comes in, right?
Right.
They're a hosting provider.
They are. And this is where this whole conflict kind of stems from, is this idea of contribution. Yeah. Because WordPress.org, the organization behind WordPress, is all about open source.
Right.
Which means anybody can contribute code. Anybody can, help make it better.
Right.
And a lot of people do, either financially or with their time and effort.
Yeah, and they even encourage that, right? Like they want people to
Absolutely.
make the platform better.
It thrives on that community involvement.
Yeah.
That's what makes open source so powerful.
Okay, so how does WP Engine play into this?
Well, so Matt Mullenweg, who's the co-creator of WordPress and CEO of Automatic,
Right.
he's publicly criticized WP Engine, saying they're not really pulling their weight
Interesting.
when it comes to contributing back to the community.
So they're basically profiting off of this free platform.
That's essentially the argument. They've built a whole business model using WordPress.
Yeah.
But the question is, are they giving enough back?
Huh, and this isn't just like a difference of opinion. Like
Yeah.
Matt Mullenweg actually did something about it.
He did. He took some pretty big action. WordPress.org blocked WP Engine servers.
Wow.
So what that means for WP Engine customers is no more direct plugin installations, no automatic theme updates,
Wow.
at least for the time being.
So like that's got to be a huge security concern, right?
Absolutely, because if a security flaw is found in a plugin and you're not getting those automatic updates,
Right.
your site could be vulnerable.
Wow. Okay, so this is like real world consequences.
Yeah, this isn't just a tech squabble.
Aye.
This is people's livelihoods, their businesses
Yeah.
that could be at risk.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got this like open source ideal clashing with like running a profitable business.
Exactly.
But then it gets even crazier because they actually got into like a legal battle too.
Yeah, they did dueling cease and desist letters.
Oh my gosh.
It's got really messy.
So WP Engine sent one to Matt Mullenweg like to stop talking about them basically.
Essentially, yeah, saying stop with the public criticism.
Wow.
And Automatic fired back with their own cease and desist,
What?
claiming WP Engine's use of the WordPress name was trademark infringement.
Oh my goodness.
And then to make matters even more complicated, the WordPress Foundation got involved.
Then who are they?
They're the nonprofit that kind of guides the future of WordPress.
Okay.
And they sided with Automatic, saying WP Engine violated their trademark policy.
So it's like everyone's against WP Engine right now.
Pretty much.
Wow. Okay,
Okay.
so we've got accusations, legal threats, tension. What a mess.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
But before we get into like what it means for users and all that,
Okay.
let's take a step back and really dig into this open source contribution issue,
Okay.
because I think that's key to understanding why this is such a big deal. It's kind of like, you know how everyone always says open source is like a public park?
Right.
Like everyone can enjoy it,
Yeah.
but somebody's got to take care of it.
Someone's got to mow the lawn and take out the trash.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you can't just have people having picnics and leaving their trash everywhere.
Right. It would be chaos.
It would be a disaster.
Yeah.
So in the case of WordPress, those contributions, that's like the maintenance crew.
Okay.
That's how the core software gets improved.
Yeah.
Bugs get fixed, new features get added.
And those security updates we were talking about, like someone's actually writing the code to make sure those vulnerabilities are patched.
Right. It's a whole team of developers, often working for free
Mm-hmm.
or for very little compensation,
Wow.
just to keep the platform secure.
It really makes you appreciate all the work that goes on behind the scenes.
It really does.
that we just take for granted.
Yeah. Most users have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's crucial. And so the argument is that companies like WP Engine that are profiting off of this free platform,
Right.
they have a responsibility to contribute back in a meaningful way.
Okay, so that's like the big picture, the philosophy behind it. But
Okay.
let's bring it down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
Like, if you're listening to this and you're a WP Engine customer,
Yeah,
what does this actually mean for you right now?
right. I mean, I'm sure some people are freaking out a little.
Yeah, like, should I be finding a new hosting company? Like,
Well, I wouldn't panic just yet.
okay.
This situation is still developing.
Yeah.
And WP Engine, they're actively working on a workaround to get those updates flowing again.
Okay, so my site's not just going to, like, crash tomorrow.
No. It's
Yeah.
not going to be like a sudden blackout or anything.
Okay, good.
But it is important to stay informed.
Okay, so no need to dust off my old HTML skills just yet.
Not quite.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it is a good reminder that things can change quickly in the tech world.
That's true.
And it highlights the importance of understanding how your website's hosted
Yeah.
and, what factors could potentially impact it.
Yeah, like knowing what you're relying on.
Exactly.
Okay, good advice.
So if you are a WP Engine customer, keep a close eye on your inbox,
Okay.
check their website for updates. They'll be providing information on the situation and any steps they're taking.
Perfect.
And, honestly, it might be a good time to at least explore other options.
Like, just to see what else is out there.
Yeah, not necessarily to jump ship immediately,
Right.
but just so you're aware.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
Exactly, in case things go south.
Okay, so what kind of other options are we talking about here?
Well, this episode of Tech Talk Bites, they actually mentioned an interesting one called Selldone.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them. I think they're doing things a little differently.
Yeah, they're less of a traditional hosting provider and more of like an all-in-one platform.
Okay.
So it's designed to simplify the whole website building and running experience.
So it's less about just hosting and more about providing a whole, like, ecosystem.
Exactly. And they're supposed to be really user-friendly, especially for people who are new to WordPress
Yeah.
or maybe just looking for something simpler.
So maybe a good alternative for folks who are feeling a little shaky about WP Engine right now.
Potentially,
Yeah.
yeah. It's always good to have options.
For sure. And, maybe this whole conflict will actually lead to some positive changes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they say necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
So maybe this will push the whole WordPress ecosystem forward.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see some really cool innovations come out of this.
Exactly. Maybe even a whole new way of thinking about hosting.
Interesting. Okay, so just to recap for everyone who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed right now,
Yeah.
don't panic, stay informed,
Right.
and maybe use this as an opportunity to explore your options a little
Yeah.
bit. But beyond the practical advice, I mean, this whole thing brings up some really interesting questions about the future of open source software in general.
It does. Like, are we going to see more of this, like, open source ideals clashing with big business?
Right, because it's only a matter of time before another company
Exactly.
builds a successful business model on top of a free platform.
And then what happens? How does that relationship work?
Yeah, and what does it even mean to own software anymore?
Right. Like in the age of collaborative development, it's a very blurry line.
It's like we've stumbled into a philosophy debate
Totally.
disguised as a tech support forum.
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
But it's a debate worth having because
Absolutely.
this is going to shape the future of the internet.
It really is.
It's crazy, right? Like all this stuff happening behind the scenes.
I know. It's like a whole other world.
And most people have no idea.
Right. They just want their website to work.
Exactly. Like, I don't care about the open source drama. I just want my cat pictures to load.
Exactly. But what this whole thing shows is that those things are connected.
Okay, how so?
Well, the functionality, the stability of the web, like we were talking about,
Right.
that all depends on this balance between the open source community
Right.
and the businesses that are making money off of it.
And right now, it seems like that balance is a little off.
It does seem that way.
Like we're watching a tug of war.
Yeah, and nobody wants the rope to break.
Right. Because then what happens?
Exactly. It's a good analogy.
But seriously, though, like, what's the solution here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I guess so.
Because it's not just about WP Engine and Automatic.
Right. It's bigger than that.
It's about the future of the internet. Like, do we want a web where open source can still thrive?
Right.
Or does it all become about corporate interests?
And where do users like us fit into all of this?
I think that's the most important question. Because ultimately, we have the power.
In what way?
Well, with our choices, with our money, we support the companies and the projects that we believe in.
So it's not just about being a passive user, it's about being an active participant.
Exactly, and educating ourselves about these issues so we can make informed decisions.
So, like, what would you say to someone who's listening to this right now and thinking, like, okay, this is a lot?
I'd say don't be overwhelmed. Be empowered.
Okay, like that.
Like this whole WP Engine situation, it's a wake-up call. It's a reminder that we need to be having these conversations about open source, about ethics, about sustainability.
Because it affects all of us.
Exactly, even if we don't realize it.
So what can we do, like, practically speaking?
Well, for starters, learn more about open source.
Oh.
Like how it works, what it means, why it's important.
Yeah, there's going to be tons of resources online.
Oh yeah, there's a whole world out there.
Okay.
And then think about the companies you support.
Okay, are they contributing back to the community?
Exactly. Are they aligned with your values?
Okay, that makes sense.
And don't be afraid to ask questions like, if you're using a service and you're not sure where they stand on open source, ask them.
Yeah, hold their feet to the fire.
Exactly. Because the more we talk about these things, the more transparency there will be.
And hopefully that will lead to more ethical and sustainable practices.
That's the goal.
Well said. I think that's a good place to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree.
It's been a wild ride.
It has, but also really eye-opening.
Totally. And I think the main takeaway here is that even though this whole WP Engine WordPress thing might seem like just a tech squabble,
Right.
it actually has huge implications for all of us.
Absolutely.
So stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the fascinating world beneath the surface of the internet.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Until then, deep divers.